Hey guys, I'm MJ. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to break down something very important. I made a post on my X account, Day 80 Stacking Sats, where I explained the difference between visible volatility versus the invisible volatility. So basically what it is that most people see the Bitcoin volatility and they're scared of it. They think that if Bitcoin goes down, drops 20%, 30%, they get scared of it and they don't want to deal with that. But what they don't realize is that the most volatile thing actually is fiat currencies. And the problem is that the volatility is only to one side. Which side? Downside. That's the problem. You think you're doing good to yourself, you're working hard, you're producing value, and you're making dollars for that value that you produce. And now you think you want to save your money, you want to build up the better future, stuff like that. And what happens? You keep your dollars in your bank account. Let's say 1 year ago, you have $1,000 there. You save it for a year. You don't touch it. So now you go to your bank account, you still see that $1,000 and you feel good about it. You have actually achieved something. You didn't buy some random stuff with it. It's still there. But the problem is that if we now open this chart here, this is the US dollar versus Bitcoin chart, what can we see? Within the last year only, you still have your $1,000 in your bank account, but it have lost purchasing power. And not only in terms of Bitcoin that we can see here, but we have inflation. They're saying that inflation is maybe 3-4%, but the reality is it's much bigger. I mean, if we look at the M2 chart here, you can see that M2 chart is going up. What is M2 chart? It's the global liquidity, basically, the money supply chart. It goes up, every dollar in your pocket decreases in value. Every new dollar that they're printing to the circulation decreases the value of the dollar in your bank account, of the dollar in your pocket. So if we look at this here, over the last year only, your dollar in your bank account have lost almost 50% against Bitcoin. That is absolutely nuts. The regular inflation, like I said, M2 goes up, you're losing maybe 8, maybe 10, maybe 20% a year of your purchasing power, but you still have that $1,000 in your bank account, right? It's not volatile. It's not like you have $500 in your bank account right now. So you feel good about it, but you go to the store and you see you can buy way less with that money. Even if you keep it in your bank account, you don't do nothing, you don't do anything stupid. But now, compared to Bitcoin, over the last year, 49% down. Over the last 5 years, 90% down. What can we see here? 90%. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is the best investment over the last 15 years, and this is factual data. We can't deny that. But Bitcoin actually solves a huge problem that we have in our monetary system, with our money system, that most people don't realize. If Bitcoin goes down now, let's say 20-30%, then everybody panics. Everybody, like the media says, oh my God, Bitcoin is down in dollar terms, yada, yada, things like that. But what they don't realize, what most people don't realize and they don't think about it, is they don't freak out when they see their purchasing power losing value like that. That then there's financial gurus and people and banks saying that, hey, like, just save more, like, just think about your expenses, drink less coffee, make more coffee at home, things like that. But that doesn't solve the problem. I mean, the purchasing power still decreases. It doesn't matter if you drink coffee at home or at Starbucks. I mean, when you should cut your Starbucks coffees is when you don't go to Starbucks, you do not spend that $10 and you put that $10 into Bitcoin, because here, as we can see, it is factual data. Over the last 5 years, 90%, US dollar have lost 90% of its purchasing power against Bitcoin. Bitcoin could go down 50% today, 50% today. Everybody would panic. But if you would have been in the Bitcoin game for the last 5 years, you would still be up 40%. If you look at this chart right here, I mean, simple math, right? Bitcoin now I mean, US dollar have lost 90% of its value against Bitcoin over the last 5 years. Bitcoin today goes down 50%, which would be absolutely insane. Everybody would lose their mind. But let's put things into perspective. You would still be up 40% compared to dollars if you just kept US dollars in your bank account for the last 5 years versus you kept Bitcoin for the last 5 years. You would still be up 40% if Bitcoin would go down 50% today. That's mind-blowing, right? I mean, I want to pick your brains here, but most people don't see it, and this is such a crucial information, because I mean, you have to take emotions out of here, I mean, most people are just so emotional, if Bitcoin goes up, they get excited, they buy more, and if Bitcoin goes down, they're afraid to buy more because there's people in the media saying that, it's most likely going down even more. Well, let me tell you, it could drop 80%, 80% today, and you would still be up 10% if you would have been in the Bitcoin game for the last 5 years. That's crazy. And that is exactly the reason, factual data, why you should make your Bitcoin strategy today. Start studying Bitcoin, like to understand the reasons why Bitcoin is going up like that. Obviously, the reason is that Bitcoin is the scarcest asset in the world. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is absolutely manipulation proof. You cannot manipulate with Bitcoin. Yes, you could manipulate, I mean, big whales and people could manipulate with the price. But that's exactly the tool that they sometimes use to get you, retail investor, emotional. And then they buy more, But the reality is that US dollar have lost 90% over the last 5 years, and you cannot manipulate the Bitcoin protocol. You cannot manipulate the system. You cannot manipulate. It's impossible. You cannot make 22 million Bitcoin tomorrow. You can't just do it. I mean, there's miners all around the world. You want to do some shady stuff, miners will just say, hey, we don't accept it, and it's completely decentralized out of emotions. I mean, these are just computers mining and validating every transaction happening on the Bitcoin blockchain. So if you want to do some shady stuff, whatever, I mean, without emotions, the computers will say, hey, we're going to kick you out of here. You can't do that, So the price is the only thing that they can manipulate, but that's why I want to make this video here today, to put things into perspective about the visible visible volatility versus the invisible volatility. This volatility here is minus 90% over the last 5 years. And if we look, like in my last video, I break down over the last 4 years, 3 years, Bitcoin have done 7.5x. You have 7.5 times your money, your investment, if you started saving in Bitcoin 3 years ago, from the 2022 bear market bottom until today. So this is it. This is the topic for today. That's something that I wanted to put into perspective today for you guys to understand that you do not need to be afraid of the Bitcoin volatility. If Bitcoin price goes down, this is good for you. If you're somebody like me who have more time in their hands than money, then you should be welcoming Bitcoin dips and volatility with open arms. If Bitcoin goes down, I mean, looking at this chart, it's still up in terms of dollars, but if, like, in dollar terms, Bitcoin price goes down, it means you can stack more Bitcoin, because the trend there is clear. I mean, if we max it out, US dollars have lost 99.62% against Bitcoin. And the crazy part is that US dollars can lose another 99% against Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes to $200, $250, I mean, and they keep printing the dollars the way they do right now, then, I mean, it's even not the question here, So think about it, study Bitcoin, study fiat money system as well, study what they're doing with that, and study Bitcoin, understand why US dollars have lost 99.62% against Bitcoin over the last 15 years. And then you're not afraid of the Bitcoin volatility anymore. So this is super important. This is something you need to understand, And that's visible versus invisible. What is it? Everybody's saying, oh, people are thinking Bitcoin is too risky, too volatile. I don't want to deal with the volatility. I don't want to buy the top. They're always afraid of that. But make your strategy. I'm not saying that you have to sell real estate today, or you have to, I don't know, like come all into Bitcoin with everything you have today. Not that. Like I broke down in my last video, Bitcoin is at all-time highs right now. And if we are looking at historical cyclical data, then Bitcoin could correct at some point. Obviously, if we look at Ethereum, if we look at the altcoin market right now, we still are expecting altcoin season to happen as well at some point. So we don't really see Bitcoin correcting probably in the next like 6 to 8 months or something like that. But eventually, like I broke down in my last video, usually Bitcoin corrects down to their previous bull market levels. And during the previous bull market level, Bitcoin topped out at 69,000. So if we are about to enter, the correction phase at some point, then this is reasonable target, I would say. Maybe a little bit higher because really the adoption is absolutely out of this world. Like just a couple of days ago, even the brightest minds in the world, Harvard University analysts, it was like 6 years ago when they said that Bitcoin is more likely to go to $100 than to $100,000. And guess what happened a couple of days ago? They bought Bitcoin. $120 million worth of Bitcoin through the ETFs when Bitcoin price were over $100,000 because they realized, they started studying it. They're like, oh, we see what's going on here. Even the brightest minds in the world understand it. So that's the reality of the situation. Don't be afraid of the visible volatility. Be afraid of the invisible volatility that you do not see, and start studying Bitcoin, start stacking Bitcoin, and start winning financially. That's the point of my today's video. If you liked it, if you think that this video helped you in any way, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video, and you're also welcome to follow me on my X account at MJ Stacking, where I make daily Bitcoin posts. I always pick your brains about different aspects of Bitcoin and how it's making the world a better place. So thank you again and have a great time. Ciao, guys.